Hi, my name is Lara and I am a recovering makeup hoarder slash makeup addict. I don't really know what the term is. I say recovering because I have been on a makeup no-buy slash low-buy for the past more than 4 years. I still feel like I'm constantly working on my relationship to my makeup and my collection because I still, when I'm in a Sephora or a drugstore, I get those inclinations like, ooh, this thing is on sale. This literally happened to me yesterday. There was a sale section of NYX products. I really like NYX. And I was like, oh, I didn't have this on my list, but this actually would really add to my collection. And I'm actively on a makeup no-buy right now. I started this no-buy in July because I realized I had just brought too many things into my collection in 2023. So even though I had these roadblocks in place, I was still tempted. I still looked in the makeup section, which I shouldn't have even done in the first place. So it's a journey. It really is. Though I have a lot of tactics to help me to not purchase makeup and to actually enjoy the products I have, it's not always easy. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about if a makeup no-buy is right for you. Because honestly, as much as I talk up makeup no-buys and like how you should do one and the benefits that it has had on my personal life, I don't necessarily think that it means that everyone needs to go on a makeup no-buy. For example, thinking about the people in my life who buy makeup, I don't think any of them need to go on a makeup no-buy because they just don't have that kind of relationship with makeup. However, if you are someone who, like me, watches a lot of beauty YouTube and partially because of that has a large collection, you are probably more likely to need to go on a makeup no-buy. But let's talk about the symptoms that led me to realizing that I needed to go on one. And if you recognize these symptoms in yourself, it's probably time for you to go on one as well. I wanted to make this video because I see a lot of the time in my comments people being like, wow, I am so glad that I found your channel. This is so helpful to me. Now I'm going on a makeup no-buy. But I also see comments where people say, I'd actually never thought about this before and it hadn't even occurred to me that I should go on a makeup no-buy or that I had this relationship with makeup where I have too much stuff. But now that you're talking about it, I'm seeing a lot of those signs in myself. And it's the same with me. When I started watching this content back in the day, it hadn't even occurred to me that there could be a problem with my makeup consumption before. Like that idea had not entered my brain. So these types of videos were just like kind of mind-bending for me. And if you need this, if you need that push, here I am. I have quite a few videos in this vein, so if you're interested in that, I can link some of them here. I also have a playlist called Time for a Makeup No-Buy with all the videos where I'm talking about my makeup no-buy and all of the advice that I've given on how to start, why you should start, next steps, how to stick to it, all this kind of stuff. I am probably honestly getting towards the end of all of the tips that I can offer you on a makeup no-buy because I feel like I've covered everything. But if you do have a specific question about no-buys, how to know you're ready, or how to know, how long your makeup should be, if it should be 1 month or 1 year, that kind of thing, I'm happy to address that too. But I just don't want to be like repeating myself that much because I talk about makeup no-buys all the time and I love it, but there's only so much I can say. Let's just get into it. So when I was preparing for this video, I realized that there's kind of two main themes or main structures that if you sort of adhere to both of these themes or tenets, then I think that makes it obvious that you need to go on a makeup no-buy. The first one is neglecting the makeup you already have, and the second one is frequently buying more makeup. Now, the reason that if individually I don't think that these are necessarily proof that you need to go on a makeup no-buy is because I think there's different reasons for these two things, but it's just when combined together that was in the situation that I got into. So first of all, neglecting your makeup. I think that there's a lot of people who have some makeup products, but they don't use makeup that often. They have it for, the special occasions, for party or a really nice dinner. For example, I think my sister and my mom are like this. They both own a blush, a mascara, honestly that might be it, like a lipstick, but they really only reach for those items a couple of times a year, and that is intentional. They're not big into makeup. They do have those products and they do neglect them most of the year, but those products still have a specific intention and they are getting used. So if this is you, that's totally cool. I honestly don't think a lot of those people are watching these videos. I think the people who watch makeup content on YouTube enjoy using makeup themselves. It's not really analogous to like the gaming space, I think, where some people like enjoy watching gamers on YouTube but don't game themselves. I'm just speculating because I actually have no idea what's going on in the gaming space. But whereas with makeup, I don't think it's common for people to watch makeup content but actually not really own or use makeup. So if you only use makeup infrequently, you don't have that much, that's fine. You don't need to worry. And also, I don't think these people need to go on makeup no-buys anyways, because they're probably just doing a replacement no-buy by default anyways. Like if they finish their concealer, they'll buy a new concealer, but they're not going to own 2 concealers because they only use concealer 5 times a year. You know what I mean? But anyways, the second one I think is a much more obvious signifier of potentially needing to go on a makeup no-buy, and that is buying a lot of makeup. You know, the obvious one. And the reason I don't say that this is automatically a bad thing is I think there's a lot of people who are really good at using their full makeup collection. I think actually Sarah Rose is a good example of this because she has a collection that is much larger than mine in most categories. I think there's probably 1 or 2 categories where I have more than her, such as mascara. But even though she has like 40 eyeshadow palettes, she still uses almost all of them. Like she has done videos in the past where she shows all of the eyeshadow palettes that she has used in the past month, and usually it's like 5 to 10 eyeshadow palettes. For me, I usually have 1 core eyeshadow palette that I have on the go at any one time, and then maybe I will rotate in 1 other one, or I'll max have 2 and rotate in a 3rd one. Like I will never be using more than 3 eyeshadow palettes in a given month. I sort of do a shop my stash monthly makeup bag, a version of that. And so when I'm doing my makeup in the morning, I'm not reaching for a different palette every day. I'm just using what I already have set aside, and then when I get tired of that, I'll rotate a different one in. So by default for me, it is tricky to be constantly using my full makeup collection because that's just not how it works for me. Part of this probably has to do with my makeup setup. I have to do my makeup in the bathroom because that is just where I have space. If I had all of this space for makeup and it was like better organized and simpler to access, then it probably would be a different situation. But for example, these are all of my palettes. Okay, you can see it's not like in a drawer where I can sort of pull one out at a time. These are just, they're all stacked in here. I've got some blushes as well, bronzers, but you can probably see they're just stacked in here. And so they're not super accessible. On the weekend, it was like a Barbie weekend. I went to Barbenheimer, of course. So I had to pull out this palette, and it was right at the bottom of the makeup bag. This is just like a very old e.l.f. palette, but it's like a challenge, you know, whenever I want to get something out that I don't have in my current rotation. I either have to rotate out everything because I realize I'm tired of some things, or I just need to go and select that item and then reorganize and put it back. So because of that, a lot of makeup gets neglected. And it's not because I don't want to reach for it, but that's just my tendency. And it's not even just the things that are, you know, sort of out of sight, out of mind. Even on this is very like insight in mind because it's much more easy to access. I don't reach for these things because my tendency is just to reach for the things that are already in my makeup bag and that are also already in my project pan because I'm focusing on those products. When I get focused, I get very focused and I just want to finish what I have rather than rotating in something new. So I am really bad for neglecting products. However, as I said, Sarah Rose has a much larger collection than me, but she's really good at rotating things out and not like hyper focusing on just one product for like 3 months straight. I'm trying to finish a liquid highlight right now, and I could tell you on one hand the number of times that I've used a different highlight other than that one in the past 4 months. Like I just don't. I stick with what I'm already working on. So let's review. If you neglect your makeup, but it is fully intentional, and again, you don't have that much, then that's fine. And if you have a large collection, but you're able to frequently rotate it in and get use out of all of it, then again, that is fine. However, if we combine these two things, if you buy a lot of makeup, and that means that you neglect a lot of your collection and usually the older products, I think that that's a sign that it is time to go on a makeup no-buy. Or at least, figure out a way of using your full collection. However, for me, that has not worked. I mean, I have done shop my stashes. I have done 1 month makeup bag with products that I don't usually reach for. I have done graveyard project pans to try to ensure that I reach for older products, but really the best thing that I can do is just go on a makeup no-buy to make sure that I'm focusing on what I already have. I also need to implement all of those other things. Those are all tools to help me use my makeup, but the main issue is when I'm bringing new makeup in, I can't fully concentrate on my collection. I've even seen this recently when I brought in a new eyeshadow palette that Shauna gifted to me. I barely use any other palettes since I've had that one because it was a new thing. It was fun and exciting. I brought something new in and I neglected everything else that I had. So that is the main thing. If you fall into these two categories, might be time for you to go on a makeup no-buy. That was a really long first thing, but that's sort of the framework that I wanted to set you up with. And that's kind of the first two things. And so within these sort of fall the different issues of having so many products that you cannot rotate them all into regular use. I know that I said Sarah Rose is able to use all of her eyeshadows, but when we actually mathematically calculate it, let's say you have 30 palettes and each palette has somewhere between 4 and 12 or even 18, but let's say 12 eyeshadows. So let's say 8 eyeshadows times 30 palette, 240 eyeshadows. Individual eyeshadows, and that's not even counting single shadows. That's just the eyeshadow palettes if you have 30. And so that means that out of 365 days in a year, you have 240 individual eyeshadows to use. So you might get one use out of each of them if you are someone who does makeup every single day. If you're someone who does makeup not every day, but at least you use 2 or 3 eyeshadows a day when you do makeup, then again, you can probably get about one use out of each. But realistically, there's just not a way to get use out of all of those palettes. Even though you're not neglecting some palettes, you're probably neglecting some individual shades. So keep that in mind. Another sign that a makeup no-buy is probably right for you is that you frequently have your makeup products go bad on you. I see this in YouTube videos from people who I watch. When they do empties videos, sometimes they talk about products that they've had to declutter because it simply got bad on them. And this is understandable once in a while, especially if it's a product like, the Kosas concealer, which is really only good for 6 months, or cream and liquid products. It is understandable. But if it's happening all the time and you are not finishing any of your products, you are just decluttering them when they're still half full because you can't finish them in time before they expire, it's really time to stop bringing new things into your collection and actually focusing on what you have, because this should not be happening with all of your concealers, with all of your foundations. If you have so many foundations and concealers that you can't use all of them, I think that's too many. With eyeshadows, I think it's more acceptable to have multiple, even other powder things like bronzer or eyeshadows and powder products don't expire as quickly, but with foundations and concealers, you really should be buying them based on how long it will take you to get through them. And if you're not sure about this, then I would recommend just searching on YouTube for videos where people show how long it takes them to get through products, or how many products they get through in a year or whatever. Too Much Tash has done videos where she's actually tracked how long each different type of makeup takes her to get through, so that could be a good template for you. So okay, because it takes me 6 months to get through a foundation, I should buy no more than 2 foundations a year, that kind of thing. So again, if your makeup is expiring on you all the time, take this as a sign. Go on a makeup no buy, because that should not be happening. The next thing, this happens to me a lot, is forgetting about makeup products you have, and so neglecting them. This goes back into the neglecting category, but stuff at the bottom of this makeup bag, if I'm not going through it regularly and, you know, doing a shop my stash, I'm like, wow, I cannot believe that it has been that long since I used that. So for example, I have these Juvia's Place palettes that I probably haven't used either of these since the fall, honestly, because they're at the bottom of this makeup bag. I haven't rotated them in. I don't have them in my regular line of sight. I forget that I have them, especially when something new and shiny comes into my collection. And like, these are huge pans. Like, I could use that middle row, all of them, as blushes. These are beautiful, sparkly shimmers. This one is definitely better for the fall, but like that one I could use as a bronzer probably. So I should not be neglecting these things. I have actually talked about recently how I want to buy a new bronzer, but I haven't even bothered to try this as a bronzer because I didn't fully forget about the palette, but I hadn't looked at it in so long that it hadn't occurred to me that I could use that as a bronzer. So look through your collection, find out what you've got. And if you're not doing that regularly, that could be a sign that it is time for you to stop bringing new things in because your collection is just out of hand. I hope I'm not repeating myself too much in this video. The next sign that I think it could be time for a makeup no buy for you is that you frequently buy makeup off of TikTok and YouTube recommendations. Now, this is a whole thing. I honestly, as much as I love social media, as much as I love YouTube, it has taught me pretty much everything I know about makeup. It has been the reason for most of my favorite makeup purchases. I still kind of feel, I've almost got like a love-hate relationship with it because I think that these social medias are the main cause of overconsumption, at least among my age group. Just think about the de-influencing trend. So if you were not familiar with this, basically on TikTok a couple of months ago, there were some ordinary people and influencers who started talking about de-influencing. So basically trying to prevent you from buying stuff that you do not need. This is a great idea in theory. However, I don't think, well, a couple things. I don't think that it was carried out the right way because what ended up happening for a lot of these de-influencing videos, it was basically don't buy the Charlotte Tilbury wand. Should have been full stop, but instead it was, instead of that, buy the Flower Beauty Light wand because it's cheaper. And I don't think that that was the intention around de-influencing. I think that the intention was you don't need any of this stuff. It shouldn't have been, you know, don't buy that, buy this. Like, buy this better product, buy this cheaper product, whatever. It should have just been, don't buy this product in the first place because you don't need it, and these are the reasons why you don't need it. You know, look at what you already have. Think about if you would actually use it if you had it in your collection. So even a trend that ostensibly was a good idea and a good thing, I think that social media kind of warped it. And when you read the comments on these de-influencing videos, people are just like, oh, this actually influenced me to buy 2 more things. So it completely defeats the purpose of de-influencing. Think about the way that influencers make money. Other than ad revenue on YouTube, which is not very much, it's through sponsorships. These people are paid by companies to sell you stuff, sell you products, whether it be makeup or clothing. That's the whole point of influencers. That is how they make their money. That is why they are so popular. They are selling you a lifestyle. They are selling you a dream. They are selling you a shoe. And they are incredibly effective at it because they make these products look amazing, because their lives look amazing. I don't deny that I can get sucked into. I'm not saying that I don't follow any influencers, but I try to be cognizant of their role and what they're trying to do, and that content creators are incredibly effective at selling you stuff. I personally would be more likely to buy a product on a content creator's recommendation than just like seeing a commercial of the product. You know, I'm like someone who I don't necessarily know, but like a real person has recommended this, but you know, they could be sponsored, so it could be just as fake. I'm not trying to be cynical here. I do think that influencers truly do love the products that they are promoting, but I still think it's important to sort of keep that in the back of your mind. And if you're buying a ton of products from TikTok and YouTube, I think that's a really good sign that it's time for you to go on a makeup no buy, because that's much more compulsive than a different kind of recommendation. If I'm going to be really intentional about buying a new product, I might ask my friends what they enjoy. I might specifically look up reviews like Google and YouTube to see in-depth tutorials and reviews of that product. But if I'm just scrolling on TikTok and I see a bunch of videos of people recommending products, that's not going to be as intentional, right? That just happens to be, oh, I just saw it on TikTok. I wasn't specifically searching for a product. So I think when there is intentionality around it, it shows you actually want the product. But if you're buying things all the time on TikTok recommendations, I think it's time to cut that out. Or maybe just cut out buying products that you see recommended on TikTok, or maybe just delete TikTok. Now, as I mentioned, I am currently on a makeup no buy, and again, the two main themes are neglecting what you have and frequently buying more. I honestly wasn't buying that much more anymore. I think I have gotten better about that. I was still bringing things into my collection more than I would like, but really this time the no buy was specifically targeting the fact that I'm neglecting so much of my collection, and it is easier to do that if I'm bringing new things in. So now that I'm not going to be bringing in any new makeup for the rest of the year, hopefully I can focus on my other eyeshadow palettes. Because again, when I get a new eyeshadow palette, that's all I focus on for months. And yeah, the goal is just going to be hopefully getting more use out of my full collection and also getting the numbers down, because I am probably holding steady with how many products I had last year with this year, and I want the number to always be going down. But that is it for today's video. Let me know what you thought, and let's talk about a book that I've been reading lately. So this is We Are Each Other's Harvest, Celebrating African American Farmers, Land and Legacy by Natalie Basil. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but this is a massive book, as you can tell. It's almost like a textbook or something. Like, it's very large pages because there's lots of photos. I didn't realize that the book was like this, but it's just beautiful. And it is a compilation of different poetry, different articles, excerpts from books, and it's all focusing on farming and sort of food security, food sovereignty in the US, with a particular focus on Black farmers. So as it says here, as national conversations on reparations reach a high, African Americans' contributions to agriculture become central to addressing economic disparity, food justice, climate change, and intergenerational wealth. So it just shows the way that like our food systems affect everything, and if there are no Black farmers and Black landowners, that has a huge impact on the country at large. And also why it is that we have this idea, like when we think farmer, we think like an old white man. What has happened in order for things to get to that place? Obviously racism and discrimination within the systems that allow people to farm land. So it's really interesting. It shows different farms that are starting and sort of a history of Black farming up until this point. So beautiful, and really enjoying it so far. I don't know, maybe a fifth so far. I've probably read like 10 of the excerpts and really enjoying it. But that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't and you're interested in makeup no buy content, and I'll talk to you next week.